the Sustainable Development Goals. My name is Russell Shao. I am the Executive Director of the Global Taiwan Institute, a 501c3 think tank based in Washington, D.C., dedicated exclusively to Taiwan policy research and global affairs. And I will be your moderator for tonight's event. It's truly an honor for me now to introduce the opening remarks by Ambassador James Lee, who serves as the Director General of the Taipei Economic and Cultural Office here in New York City. Ambassador Lee, please.
Thank you, Russell. Minister Victor, Secretary General Lee, Deputy Representative Schreier, Director Chandler, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good evening and good morning. As world leader gathered in New York this week and explore a solution to advance global peace, security, and sustainable development, it's my great pleasure to welcome all of you to join our GCTF seminar today, which highlights the joint efforts of the US, Japan, Australia, and Taiwan's in building an inclusive, resilient, and secure Indo-Pacific. The 78 sessions of the UN General Assembly marks a crucial milestone in the journey toward achieving the 2030 agenda and the urgent need to put the 17 SDG back on track. Given that the Indo-Pacific is now the world's fastest growing area, its sustainability is fundamental to the development of global economy and security. Therefore, Indo-Pacific countries are essential in accelerating the progress of SDG. This seminar provides us with a great opportunity to showcase our partnership aimed at accelerating the SDG in this region and beyond. Through the GCTF platform, Taiwan works in collaboration with like-minded partners to share knowledge and expertise, jointly contribute to the SDG, and address global challenges. Since its establishment in 2015, the GCTF has held 61 international workshops on a wide range of issues with the participation of over 7,000 government officials, experts, and civil society representatives from 126 countries. And we have co-organized the GCTF seminar here in New York with our like-minded partners for the fourth consecutive years in conjunction with the ANGA High-Level Week. As a responsible member of the international community, Taiwan continues to firmly uphold the principles of professionalism, pragmatism, and making contribution to demonstrate to the international community that it's a constructive partner in the global effort to attain the SDGs. We are encouraged to see growing international support for Taiwan's meaningful participation in the UN system, and we remain committed to working closely with our allies and like-minded partners to promote inclusive multilateralism. I'm looking forward to today's presentation and discussion, and I have no doubt the insights of our participants will be of great value and inspiring for us all. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, Ambassador, for those opening remarks. And now I have the pleasure of introducing our speakers, the real experts that are here to really provide the substance to our discussion today. And I will just briefly introduce them as they come up to speak. The first presentation that we will be hearing from is from Mr. Charles Lee, who is the Secretary General of the International Cooperation and Development Fund. And his topic will be on enhancing national security through climate resilience, Taiwan's cooperation strategies and projects. Mr. Lee, please.
Russell, Mr. Jonathan Schreier, Ms. Jane Chandler, Honorable Minister Stephen Victor, one of our good friends. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good evening and good morning. I'm Charles Lee, the Secretary General of Taiwan ICDF. It's my great pleasure to be with you this evening at the Global Cooperation and Training Framework Seminar. In line with the conference's theme of building an inclusive
close the gap in health workers, including clinicians, community health and care workers, and public health professionals. The United States is a founding donor. Pandemic Fund, a one-year-old financial intermediary fund to address country, regional, and global pandemic prevention, preparedness, and response capacities. These and other efforts will help build resilient health systems around the world. I also wanted to say a few words about digital and emerging technologies, given their growing importance and potential for accelerating economic gains and improving the quality of life for all people. On September 18th, Secretary Blinken hosted an event with foreign leaders, emerging technology companies, and academics on artificial intelligence for accelerating progress on the Sustainable Development Goals. The Secretary was joined by representatives from India, Japan, Kenya, Morocco, Spain, Singapore, and the United Kingdom to discuss national and global strategies to harness the power of AI to solve our greatest challenges. Event participants explored AI's potential to help reach SDGs in areas like climate and clean energy, agriculture, health, education, and transportation. Secretary Blinken announced a new $15 million commitment to help more governments leverage the power of AI to drive global good, focused specifically on sustainable development goals. As just one example of how technology can help accelerate progress toward achieving SDGs, emerging digital technologies can improve agricultural efficiency by helping farmers make informed decisions about irrigation, fertilization, and pest control, fostering climate-smart agricultural practices, and thereby resulting in improved crop yields and reduced food waste. Digital agricultural systems, including AI-powered systems, can help track crop health and enable early hazard identification in order to prevent crop losses and improve agricultural productivity, leading to sustainable economic benefits, especially in developing countries. AI has great potential to help us reach our 2030 goals. Experts estimate that AI could advance progress on 80% of the SDGs and their targets. The United States is committed to ensuring that digital and emerging technology tools are developed and deployed in responsible and rights-respecting ways at home and around the world. Domestically, we have put forward a blueprint for an AI Bill of Rights and an AI risk management framework. Leading AI companies have agreed to a set of voluntary principles built on tenets of safety, security, and trust to help move toward a safe, secure, and transparent development of AI technology. These commitments include a pledge to, quote, develop and deploy advanced AI systems to help address society's greatest challenges. We applaud and support the work already being done in the lead-up to the SDG Summit over the past weeks by the UN system, including the work by the International Telecommunications Union and UN Development Program to organize an SDG Digital Day here in New York that immediately preceded this week's SDG Summit. We are also supporting the work of allies and partners, including Japan's leadership in the G7, to develop a code of conduct for the development of advanced AI systems. We are working closely with the UK on its first ever AI Safety Summit, where we will address safety and security issues with technical rigor. We are working with the European Union in joint research for societal benefits across 5 key focus areas for AI, including health, climate, energy, medicine, and emergency response. These kinds of initiatives focused on connecting the connected, bridging digital divides, and better enabling all people around the world to share ideas and opinions, build businesses, improve healthcare, and enhance education are at the heart of an effective multilateral system and crucial to our mutual goal of achieving the 2030 Agenda. Thank you. 再次感谢。
Well, thank you very much, Deputy Representative Schreier. I think your remarks really help to underscore the critical importance of U.S. leadership in addressing the Sustainable Development Goals, but those efforts alone are not going to be enough, and I think forums like today's session of the Global Cooperation and Training Framework really underscores the importance of an inclusive approach that can address the collective challenges that the world faces. And so it's my pleasure now to introduce our next speaker, who will be joining us remotely today. The next speaker will be Mr. Kensuke Fukushi, who is the director of the Institute for Future Initiatives at the University of Tokyo. Please play his remarks.
This is my great honor to be invited to deliver my speech in GCTF seminar on SDGs. My name is Ken Fukushi. I'm the director and professor at the Institute for Future Initiatives at the University of Tokyo. And today's my presentation title is the SDGs Engine, a tool for partnership. SDGs university relationship is quite important. Partnership between universities and other stakeholders is vital for promoting SDGs in the society. The University of Tokyo established a Future Society Initiatives, or FSI, in 2017 in order to promote the SDGs on campus in research, education, and social relationship. University activity as an SDG are not exactly the same as university activity exists before SDG is established. So we need a so-called translation. So our university developed a tool in order to bridging between university activities and SDGs activities. There's a lot of demands in the society or university or private company or government or municipality. Who is the right person to collaborate on SDG 6 on water from certain private industry on working on water, or government who has suffering in their water distribution in urban area? Which department exhibit highest activity on SDG 11 cities? We have urban engineering department, architecture, civil engineering, all have work on their cities. However, which department is there have highest activities? How to develop the best team to tackle problems on water, food, energy nexus. Water, food, and energy nexus has a multi-goal issue. 1, 2, 6, and 7, maybe more. So it's across the department, across the faculty. What is the best team? Who is the best student researcher on renewable energy, SDG 6 and 13, in the Faculty of Humanities. This is a little bit of the twist. Not really straightforward in engineering, but there are a lot of students and faculty work on their energy issue in their humanities faculty. But important things is who is doing this? Which research group, which laboratory, which students? SDG engine that we develop can answer all questions above. I just show some methodology. We utilize the academic database, paper-based, publishing in English. And for this time analysis, we pick the paper, 12,000 paper published between 2010 and 2020. And we had a keyword mining and similarity analysis with their SDGs definition in various institutions, not only just the United Nations, but also SDSN or some academic literatures, and having a sophisticated similarity analysis. And finally, we categorize university activity into each goal of SDGs. And there are several ways of visualization that I'm going to show you from now. This is one example of the expression. We have all 70 goals and some of their department or faculty or some unit here. Actually, we did all 55 department, faculty, and research institution centers. However, I'm showing there some of them here. One example is a medicine hospital have a quite strong activity, intensive activity on SDG 3 on health. And engineering faculty has a quite intensive activity on water and climate. Urban engineering, where I belongs, having a quite strong activity in urban development or cities. However, important findings is their research activities on water is quite strong in urban engineering. And aerospace and aviation engineering having a quite intensive activity on SDG 13 and climate. The reddish one is quite high activity and green one is a low activity. By showing this, we can show the characteristic of each research unit, and some area is very, very high activity, but some area is not that much active. I'm showing this for Faculty of Economics and Faculty of Public Policy. What is the major activity in here? In economics, the important thing is equality or decent work or industry. For public policy, peace and justice is a major. Second, gender and partnership is quite important. Although there's a focus of SDG in certain area, however, we find out that most of the faculty has relationship or activities with all 17 goals. This is again in another way of expression in order to show the keyword found in the literatures in each faculty. This is still under investigation and you may feel a little bit odd. However, you please accept this as a primary result of SDG engines. In the the graduate school of agriculture and life sciences, in the ecosystem is a major activity and economy issue or other, their area is small. However, we can see the focus on ecosystem. Economics, foreign, family, pesticide is quite interesting, having showing that the keywords. And art and science, as economy, family, and livings is a major focus. Ocean and Atmospheric Research Institute have an interaction, and family is their keyword. Pharmacy, electricity and economy, ecosystem, or values, these are the focus. So these words either giving some idea of what kind of their area or keyword is important in their each faculties. How to use this SDG engine? And this is some example that we are thinking of. The strategic collaboration between university and university. University of Tokyo want to have some relationship with some university in the world, and in order to tackle some problems, or university or industrial companies. For example, there are companies who works on water. We can have they want to have looking for the relationship with their certain research unit at the University of Tokyo. Then which department, which laboratory, who is doing this? I think it's very easy to find out. Or government and municipality have a certain target, for example, like a carbon neutrality, or renewable energy development in there, some new technology like wind turbine, or like ocean. The general based, the renewable energy, and who is doing that at the University of Tokyo? Or development an international team, new team of the researchers on to tackle certain issue. We want to go to Mars, for example. Of course, there are a lot of countries working on that. But if we need to find their international team in order to tackle certain issue, sometimes we can see in the movie, sometimes in a global crisis, they're in the movie, sometimes they develop a certain research team. And we can actually investigate who is doing what. Or design new university alliance on certain issue. For example, climate change. There's of course, a democratic way of their design is quite welcome. However, if we have a limited amount of resources, we have to do a little bit strategy. And we have a lot of other things that we can actually think of to utilize these SDG engines. But the problem is here. Data collection is a pain in the neck. We can distribute questionnaire to faculty member. Usually faculty members have no time. It's overloaded all the time, including weekend and evenings. And even though we receive a questionnaire, usually no time. No fund, no money in order to forming a group to collect such kind of data from the viewpoint of the management. So it is a problem. It takes a lot of time, a lot of effort, a lot of energy in order to collect such kind of data. Then result is no data. We don't have no data. However, the SDG engine, the good point of the SDG engine is no problem. We don't really need to send a questionnaire. Our activity on research is already in the database. We have a lot of, their data is accumulated in their various academic database, Scopus, Web of Science, PubMed, and other, databases already existed. If I publish a paper in a certain journal, it's automatically, in a few days, I think, it's already installed to their, the various academic database. So SDG engine is basically based on this academic, the database. In order to, when you utilize this, not only within the university, but we can investigate non-Japanese university For example, like Tsinghua University in China, or University of Singapore, or Cambridge, MITs. We don't really need to ask permission. We just can analyze their data. I mean, they're being in Japan. I'm going to show some of the result of this. This academic activity heat map for major university in the world. I just select only a few who has a relationship with the University of Tokyo. Austria National University, Berkeley, Cambridge, ETH Zurich, Karolinska, KTH, Peking, Princeton, Singapore, Seoul National University, Stockholm, and Tsinghua University. And we really can see their activity here. They're very easy to understand things that, for example, Karolinska Institute in Sweden is a basically medical institution, have a very strong activity in their SDG 3 in health issue. And Tsinghua University in China, one of the leading engineering university in China, having a very strong activity in energy research. So by knowing this characteristic of the university, we can develop university alliance, university partnership strategically in order to have a mutual relationship or having a better synergistic relationship with partner university. This is again, their word crowd, similar one in their various university. Their Tsinghua is very interesting in potassium. I'm not quite sure, what kind of their work in potassium research do, but they have a lot of research in potassium. On Cambridge, there are a lot of research in marriage, and Stockholm is their growth, poverty, and marriage. These are kind of characteristics of their each university. Importance of partnership, really want to emphasize this last slide of mine. Nevertheless, to say, their partnership really leveraging the resource and expertise, which is a limited resources, and we can expand, their limited resources, expertise, by developing a new partnership, promoting innovation, meeting with the different people, different way of thinking, different laboratory, different people. Really, we can make an innovative idea, and we can create some synergistic result on the research. Finally, but not least, their development of friendship is very important. And actually, research is important, of course, but in the course of their having a relationship with other universities or with student or faculty member, certainly we develop a friendship. That is not only just a research-related issue, but also this friendship finally develop peace and prosperity of each country or entire Earth. So we are really looking for a new role of the university in the society. Society is very rapidly changing, climate change, or biodiversity, limited resources, argument between countries. There are a lot of problems. What is the role of the university in this changing world? We have to adapt. We have to find a new role of university, not just research and education. We have to go beyond that. And important role of the university is having a role of students who is going to be the leader of next generation. We should understand the important role, and in order to make the global friendship, I think partnership is very important. Thank you very much.
Well, our appreciation to Mr. Fukushi for those remarks. It, I think, really helps to highlight that addressing the Sustainable Development Goals requires not only a whole of government approach, but also a whole of society approach. And we need to think about how to leverage the academic community to open new avenues of cooperation that can help bring us closer to a more inclusive, resilient, and secure Indo-Pacific. So thanks to Mr. Fukushi for those comments. Next, I have the pleasure of introducing our next speaker, Jane Chandler, who is the Director of the UN Governance and Reform Section at the Department of Foreign Affairs and Trade from Australia. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, my fellow presenters and members of the Diplomatic Corps, good evening. It's a great pleasure to be here this evening, and I'm honoured to be included in this discussion on the Sustainable Development Goals. I'd like to take this opportunity to talk about something that is at the heart of both the SDGs and also at the heart of Australia's approach to international development, partnerships for our goals. Goal 17 of the SDGs represents the linchpin of our global collective commitment to achieving the other Sustainable Development Goals. It encapsulates our collective pledge to foster collaboration, cooperation, and partnerships that transcend borders, sectors, and interests. It underscores the understanding that the challenges we face, from poverty to climate action, cannot be tackled in isolation. We have all made commitments to strive towards the 2030 agenda. Tonight, I will discuss multi-stakeholder engagement and the importance of listening to partners. Australia has a new international development policy. This policy is the first long-term policy in almost a decade. This policy will drive Australia's development interests. SDG 17, which is about partnerships for goals, has informed how Australia has approached updating this policy. Australia will offer genuine partnerships based on respect, listening, and learning from each other. We listen so that we can pursue locally led development. This is a powerful means to strengthen both our impact and our partners' capability. Our new development policy articulates Australia's unique offering as a development partner, listening and responding to needs and priorities, and drawing on Australia's national assets of shared values, rich multicultural heritage, and the knowledge and connections of First Nations people. SDG 17 highlights the need for multi-stakeholder partnerships to achieve the SDGs by 2030. Multi-stakeholder partnerships are a central part of Australia's updated development policy, and it will change how we deliver development assistance. Australia sees partnerships from a wide range of groups as essential for an effective aid program. We recognise the roles that different partners play in delivering Australia's development assistance. And with this in mind, Australia works closely with partners, including business, civil society, multilateral organisations, NGOs, and partner governments on implementing the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. It is not just about delivery, though. Partnership was also core of how we developed our new international development policy. This policy is the result of a multi-stakeholder approach, including wide-ranging consultations with discussions with more than 300 people from a range of different stakeholders, more than 200 written submissions from a diverse range of partners, and Australia's consulting partner governments, international organisations and civil societies overseas. If I could just talk for a moment about NGOs. NGOs are a key stakeholder for the Australian government and are integral to our development efforts. They are one of our nation's core strengths, building deep and enduring ties between the Australian community and institutions across our region. NGO connections being trusted relationships, local networks and knowledge, and established infrastructure and capabilities. They have strong local partnerships and strengthen local systems, which supports locally led development and humanitarian responses and ensures sustainability. They also often work in areas that don't or can't be reached by others, such as in remote and fragile and conflict-affected areas. The Australian NGO Cooperation Program is DFAT's key partnership with Australian NGOs. Through this program, we work with accredited NGOs to implement projects consistent with the goals of the development program. In the last year, there were 59 Australian NGOs implementing projects through this framework with over 2,000 local partners. Moving on to multilateral organisations. Multilateral organisations are important partners for Australia's development program and play a critical role in helping deliver development outcomes. Since 2012 to 13, Australia has consistently delivered between 37 to 43% of our ODA through multilateral organisations. Multilateral organisations achieve significant development results that we could not deliver on our own and are important partners for countries in our region and beyond. And they complement what we do through our bilateral and regional programs. The UN and other multilateral organisations are also themselves channels for funding and working with a range of partners, including NGOs, civil society organisations, and the private sector. Through our development program, we explore innovative ways to promote private sector growth and engage with the private sector to achieve development outcomes. Engaging with diverse private sector actors helps unearth opportunities to share risks and resources to achieve improved development outcomes. We also see social enterprises as important private sector stakeholders. The private sector and their networks are also powerful allies in efforts to advocate for improved corporate standards and better regulatory and business enabling environments. We find it important to clearly frame our value-add offer to business through cooperation, including our ability to convene, broker and influence, and have deep knowledge of the business and political and regulatory environment in developing countries. They also help in supporting in creating a more attractive business operating environment and providing catalytic funding. With pressures on many public budgets, we are also looking for ways to increase our blended finance capability to catalyse private sector investment. This was a key consideration in our development finance review, which was released in August. What are the challenges in developing multi-stakeholder engagement strategy? Well, engaging with diverse partners provides significant opportunities to amplify the reach and impact of the Australian aid program. However, as with all partnerships, there are risks and opportunities to manage. We find having the correct groundwork and expectations in place helps partnerships be set up for success, including by having a clear understanding of both shared and individual objectives, establishing a regular and functional two-way feedback mechanism with partners, ensuring the right people are represented at the table in the partnership, grounding our partnership in shared frameworks such as the 2030 Agenda, and having transparent and effective monitoring and evaluation systems. When working with partners, we also have a strict due diligence and safeguard requirements. This includes standalone policies on things like child protection and preventing sexual exploitation, preventing fraud, and environmental and social safeguards. There is also mandatory risk screening and due diligence assessments for all investments. All partnerships with the private sector, financial and non-financial, also need to adhere to key principles, including minimum concessionality, neutrality and sustainability. Partnerships link all of the Sustainable Development Goals under the 2030 Agenda. To demonstrate the value of the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development, Australia and other development partners must demonstrate we are listening and responding to developing countries' concerns. Australia has committed to ramp up a whole-of-government coordination and proactive collaboration with developed and developing countries to accelerate implementation of the 2030 Agenda. We should highlight the positive and practical contributions that we and like-minded partners make across all dimensions across development, economic, social and environmental. Tangible examples from Australia include providing over 52 million at no-cost doses of COVID-19 vaccines to the Indo-Pacific, which in turn allowed countries to reopen their economies, supporting Pacific countries to build climate-resilient infrastructure to minimise the economic and social cost of natural disasters, and making greater commitments to address climate change within Australia, noting the impact of our own actions beyond Australia, including the disproportionate effect of climate change on disadvantaged people. Thank you for the opportunity to speak here tonight.
Well, thank you very much, Director Chandlers, for those very insightful remarks. I think it's a very important reminder that the building blocks for attaining the Sustainable Development Goals, and for it to be sustainable, must require genuinely inclusive discussions and listening to our partners, and that is, in essence, I think, one of the most important lessons that we can draw from our discussion here today. Last but not least, I have the honor to introduce our final speaker, Minister Stephen Victor, from the Ministry of Agriculture, Fisheries, and Environment of Palau.
Good evening, everyone. I'm honored to join the distinguished panelists in this dialogue around GCTF. And I want to begin by thanking Taiwan, United States, Japan, and Australia, who have been a very strong and consistent partner to Palau over many years in our efforts to achieve the Sustainable Development Goals. In sitting and listening to with very little capacity as well as resources to achieve SDGs, it rings very true the need for multilateralism and particularly partnership for small island developing state to be able to achieve SDGs. I want to share some perspective from Palau in terms of how we're moving forward toward achieving our SDGs in building our resilience toward climate change and food security. We've developed a partnership again with Taiwan, Japan, Australia, and the United States to seek and bring to bear support to be able to implement our Blue Prosperity Plan. And it is a plan that's seeking to find balance between protection and production of our ocean resources. We're a small island developing state, but we're a large ocean state. And when it comes to Palau and many other Pacific islands with very small landmass, blue economy is critical for us to be able to achieve SDGs. And Blue Prosperity Plan is focused on how do we develop more sustainable blue economic opportunity for Palau. It's focused on how do we develop a more domesticated tuna fishery. How do we be more inclusive in our development, and therefore the tuna that we manage within our water and when it's caught contribute to food security in Palau, but as well as food security globally. How do we get Palauans to be involved within the supply chain? How do we enhance transparency and accountability within the fisheries sector, and therefore they're not seen as bad actors within the blue economy development, but become a trusted partner in how we're working together to do extractive fisheries. We're also focused on how do we, in small island, small remote island with limited economies of scale, how do we develop aquaculture industries, and therefore that is contributing to food security, contributing to a healthy environment, but contributing to affordable and accessible farmed fish that can contribute to local food security. So we're looking at specific species by which it can grow in Palau. It has local demand, but there's potential for export to external markets. And one of those fish is milkfish. It's very popular in Asia. And we're currently importing fries from Taiwan to grow in Palau. So how do we develop our ability to produce the fry in Palau, and therefore we don't have to import? I think COVID really taught us a lot of lessons. When COVID stops, flight stops, tourist stops coming, the fish fry stops coming because they needed to be brought by airplane, and therefore the milkfish industry in Palau essentially died. And so in working with Taiwan's ICDF, we're exploring building our own capacity as well as hatchery capacity to be able to produce the fries in Palau. So someone might ask, what's the economy of scale for milkfish to be able to be financially viable in Palau? So how can aquaculture work in a remote island like Palau, where there's very limited market? So our approach has been that we've assessed the potential for that export market, and it's not in the farming of the fish to a marketable size and then exporting, but exporting the fry. Within the Philippines, they can only produce up to 60% of the fry demand for milkfish farmers. So we see that as an opportunity to grow milkfish in Palau and then send the fries, export the fries to Philippines and even Taiwan, because during winter season you can't produce milkfish fry in Taiwan. So these are opportunities for markets by which we're able to farm the fish in Palau, but use the return from exporting of the fry to help sustain the industry. So these are lessons that we've learned from Taiwan's approach for how they've tried to develop aquaculture in remote Pacific islands. Focus on niche species. So these are very valuable partnership, not only that we're providing technical support and financial support, but also sharing of lessons. And I think that is important for achieving SDGs. What works, what doesn't work, and how can we help leverage the lessons that we learn that fails and learn that works and export to other countries. So not only exporting technologies, financial resources, but exporting lessons. So I wanted to share that because that has been an important aspect of how Palau has sort of moved from being seen as just a small island nation to being seen as a leader in ocean space. We're currently working with several Pacific Island countries to develop a coalition of Pacific Island who share the same vision around 100% ocean management with a minimum of 30% protection in achieving the global goal of Dory by 30. And the recognition that ocean is very important in mitigating climate change. So how do we make sure that as Pacific Island who aspire to develop blue economies to support their resilience can progress without putting the ocean in further risk that then put our resilience more into risk. The second piece of that vision is how do we ensure a healthy coastal ecosystems? Because for many of us in the Pacific, we rely on our coastal fisheries for a source of protein. And we know that reefs are very important as protection. They're very susceptible to impact of climate change, such as coral bleaching. And therefore, how do we ensure that we keep and maintain healthy reef ecosystems, and therefore when there's disturbance, they can bounce back? And then the third part of the vision is how do we bring finance to be able to achieve these very audacious goals? And part of that, and Chen mentioned the need for private finance to work with public finance in achieving SDGs. So we're building this partnership of private donor as well as public donors to have a blended finance approach to how we can leverage more private financing. We see private financing as less restrictive, so they're able to achieve short-term outcomes, and then using public finance to sustain those outcomes. So that's sort of how we're thinking about achieving these the SDGs within Palau, and how do we share that lessons from Palau throughout the Pacific, and hopefully there are applications of these approaches globally. So again, really want to thank the partners, the very strong toward achieving SDGs. I'm a Minister of Agriculture, Fisheries, and under that portfolio, we have benefited quite a lot from Taiwan's ICDF technical assistance in being able to transform our agri-food system. For those who have not been to Palau, our land is very limited. It's very poor soil, and so we need to put a lot of amendments to the soil for it to be able to produce food. Taiwan has introduced technologies that has enabled us to increase our capacity to do crop farming as well as livestock farming. Taiwan has also been working with us in the exploration of coastal fisheries management in working with USAID. And so these are the partnerships that are working on the ground in Palau. And in working with Sun Yat-sen University out of Taiwan, we're beginning to map deep sea blue carbon around Palau in our effort to understand the blue carbon sinks around Palau, but also to understand how Palau can also contribute to participation in the blue carbon market. So a potential for a new source of financing to help us achieve SDGs, to help us develop our blue economy, and to help us progress as a small island developing state. So again, I really want to thank you, thank the partnership, and we look forward to further collaboration in areas where we can share lessons of how it has worked, and hopefully these lessons can be replicated, and the ripple effect of the change can accelerate the achievement of SDGs globally. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much, Minister Victor. I cannot emphasize enough how important it was to hear from you and to hear really and remind us that these SDG goals must continue to address the issues of those who are most affected by these issues, and we need to take an integrated approach of not thinking of development partners simply as recipients, but really partners in development as well. And I think those lessons learned that you've drawn from Palau's experience really helps to shine a light on that. I'm cognizant of the fact that we are, up to the time that we have allocated, but we do have some time for some Q&A. So I do want to open it up to the audience for anyone who may have a question or perhaps comments from the panel, if there are reactions to the other panelists' comments that you would like to share. But first, let me just open it up for any questions and answers from our audience today. Okay, all right. I guess it's a little late in the evening here in New York, so I guess the people are a little tired. Perhaps any closing comments, perhaps, from our panelists? No? All right, well, with that, then, please join me in thanking our esteemed panelists in today's session of the Global Cooperation and Training Framework Hybrid Seminar on Building an Inclusive, Resilient, and Secure Indo-Pacific through Partnerships aimed at accelerating the SDGs. Thank you all for coming.